Okay, we have been talking about stress and stressors. Now, remember, everybody is going to experience stress, but it's the stressors that really induce the stress within our body. So, we did touch a little bit on the stressors the other night, but just to recap, it's things like mental and emotional stress, scars or piercings, heavy metals, chemicals, your physical structure, meaning if you had a vertebra that was out of place, poor posture, eating the wrong foods, electromagnetic stress. So these are all things that stress out our body's nervous system. Now, as we continue down our 28 days of my pyramid of optimal physical performance, we're going to go through everything from exercise to some of these things that affect our bodies, not only our muscular system, but also our nervous system. So a lot of times people, when they look at the human body, obviously people are familiar with the musculature. Everyone knows muscles. Everybody knows bones, the skeletal framework. But very few people know anything about the nervous system. But the nervous system is really what controls the functionality of the human body. So if we think about our nervous system and the density of the nervous system, if you took your body and you took everything away from your body and all you had left was your nervous system, the nervous system is so dense, you'd be able to make out the human form. And so it's very, very complex. And if you think of the nervous system, like the analogies I like to give are a couple of different ones, but what I find is the analogy of using a hose. So if you think of a nerve pathway like a hose, so your brain is sending the signal via your nerve pathway. Let's just say it's going to your abdominals. And you think of it as a hose, and I would kink the hose. So if I've got positive flow in the hose, okay, and that's what innervates or energizes that muscle. That's what allows me to have a healthy muscle. Now, all of a sudden, I kink that hose. What's going to happen? Am I going to have an increase in flow by kinking that hose, or am I going to have a decrease? I'm going to have a decrease. So if I have a decrease in flow, electrical flow to that muscle, if I have a decrease in flow, is the muscle going to get stronger or weaker? Of course, it's going to get weaker. So it doesn't matter if we're talking a muscle or a gland or one of your organs. If that nerve pathway that goes to that gland, that muscle, that organ is stressed or kinked in any way, we have a decrease in electrical flow. If we have a decrease in electrical flow, the muscle is going to get weaker. The organ or gland is not going to function the way it's supposed to. And that's generally how things start to, in terms of dysfunction or disease process, starts to manifest. So let's take a look at, if we think about the nervous system. So we have two branches of the autonomic nervous system. Some people call it the automatic nervous system. So I'll just give you kind of an example. So we have our sympathetic nervous system, and then you have your parasympathetic. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. Your parasympathetic is rest and digest. So imagine this, 500 years ago, you're on a hunting excursion and you set your gun down and you're walking around, and all of a sudden you turn around and there's this giant moose charging you. Okay. What's going to happen is you are going to dilate your blood vessels. You're going to dilate your pupils. You're going to increase your heart rate. You are ready to flee the scene. Now, you don't have to think, there's a moose chasing me. I should really rev up my heart rate. I should start producing more ATP, the energy system that drives my muscles. No, you're just going to run like hell to get away from a charging moose, right? So someone in your hunting party sees that the moose is charging you and shoots the moose and kills the moose. You clean it, you drag it back to camp, and later that night you eat it. Now you are in parasympathetic tone. So you went from being in a sympathetic tone, getting chased by the moose, which is fight or flight, to now eating the moose, and now you're in rest and digest. So you have two branches. Now, your body cannot heal when it's in fight or flight. It can't heal when it's in that sympathetic tone. So when you're in a sympathetic tone, that is what is called a catabolic state. Okay. All that means is you're in tissue breakdown. So again, you can't heal in a sympathetic state. There's a reason why athletes take anabolic steroids, because when you're in a parasympathetic mode, you are anabolic. The reason why athletes take anabolic steroids is it helps with tissue recovery. It helps with repair. It helps to regenerate, and it does it much more rapidly. So if you want to heal, you need to be in a parasympathetic tone. If you are in a sympathetic tone, you are constantly going to be breaking your body down. Now, here's the challenge. Is the human body doesn't know the difference between a charging moose and deadlines, alarm clocks, bills, toxic relationships, chemicals, heavy metals. All of those things stress out your body the same way that charging moose would. And so what we have to do is we have to eliminate as many of these stressors, the things that are going to put our bodies in this sympathetic state, this alarm state. And what we have to do is we have to do things to facilitate our body's own healing and regenerative properties. We've spent a lot of time talking about breathing, and breathing can take you from a really heightened fight or flight state where you're all amped up to a very peaceful, restful state in as few as 10 breaths. So getting back to the value of breathing, it's so important. But what I want to talk about is looking at our chart again tonight. What we're going to talk about is the things that would actually empty your bucket, create that sympathetic stress, that fight or flight reaction in the body. And these things are going to just flat out not only create degenerative changes in your body, but they're going to accelerate the aging process. So we did touch on emotional stress a little bit, but I want to expand on that a little bit. So if we think about negative thinking, now thoughts are things, and negative thoughts carry a very low vibrational frequency. The body, again, is like a giant battery. And what we need to do is we need to do that are going to offer the body high frequencies, positive thoughts, good healthy food, good pure water. These are things that are going to electrically recharge our bodies. And everything we're going to be talking about tonight are things that are breaking our bodies down. And negative thinking is so toxic and it's so poisonous, not only to your mind, but to your body, because there's a negative response to all those negative thoughts. So we have to nourish our mind with positive thoughts, read positive books, listen to positive audios, surround yourself with positive people. Because the next thing is dealing with negative people. We have all been around people that literally drain us being around them. And when you think about people that drain you, they are literally draining your physiological battery. They are literally sapping the life force out of you. It is an actual physiological phenomenon that they are pulling energy out of your body. And so we did talk a little bit about the other night, love your family, choose your friends, meaning you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with, because negative people can absolutely positively create such significant stress in your body that your body can actually go into breakdown, and it can certainly increase the aging process much quicker. So we have to guard ourselves from negative people. Another thing is bad relationships. So a relationship is really a place that we go. And for a lot of people, they think of a relationship as a place to go get something. But really, a healthy relationship is a place where you go to give. Now, eventually you need some reciprocation, or you're not going to want to give in that relationship anymore. But we have to change our mindset to a more giving space and make sure we understand that that's what a relationship is really all about, is it's a place to give. Poor work environment. There are so many people out there today that don't enjoy what they do for a living. They're kind of going through the motions. For a lot of people, we hear it all the time with clients is, there's a toxic person, a staff member, or a coworker that really creates a negative environment. And that is very, very toxic. It's very taxing to the human physiology. So you have to be very careful in protecting your space. And one of the best ways to protect your space is making sure you're getting, plenty of rest, you're getting great nutrition, you're adequately hydrated, meditating. What we want to do is we want to expand our capacity to deal with these stressors, to deal with toxic things and toxic people. And if we don't protect our own bodies and cultivate that life force and energy, then we're very vulnerable to breakdown. Another thing too is worry. Is so many times today people spend more time worrying about things that never happen than actually focusing on the present. Because worry is really about focusing on the future. When you're completely present, fear can go away, worry can go away in many instances. So it's the stories we conjure up in our minds that are actually worse in our minds than many times the outcome tends to be. So I think it's important for you to understand that people today are thinking more about the past or more about the future than being present. So when you are with a person in a relationship, you want to be as present with those people as you can be. It's healthy for the relationship. It's healthier for you. It's healthier for them. So make sure you're present. The other thing is chemical stress. So chemical stress, the way it really kinks our hose, so to speak, is it creates electrical disruption. And when you think of creating electrical disruption with the nervous system, just think of your hose being kinked. And personal care products are, especially conventional personal care products, they are so loaded with carcinogenic products in there, or ingredients. And when we look at carcinogenic ingredients, very toxic, cancer producing, and they can stress out your nervous system and really shut down glandular and organ function. so you're not optimizing functionality in your body. You really start to bog down your body. And again, think of your body as when it's healthy, like a free-flowing river. When it's unhealthy, think of it as a swamp. And when we look at chemical stress, there's also things like new construction. Sometimes we'll have people that'll come in and they're dealing with a challenge and they've gone to practitioner to practitioner to practitioner. They're not getting any better. And we start to really dig. Well, maybe you're stressed out at work. Maybe you're having a challenge with a relationship, whether it's a spouse or whether it's a child. You're driving a new car or you just got into a new house. All those chemicals off gas. So now you've got stress upon stress upon stress. And your capacity is limited, especially if you're not doing anything to kind of cultivate that life force, that energy. Eventually your body's just going to break down. Pesticides. If we look at conventional farming today, pesticides and herbicides, so very toxic. Support organic farming, support local farming, and the food sources will be forced to make changes, because when we are testing people at our holistic health center, we are finding more and more people today coming up with chemical pesticide residues and herbicides, and it's really shutting their nervous system down. So make sure you try and buy organic as often as possible. Support the local farmers. Synthetic drugs. What synthetic drugs do is they override the body's autonomic nervous system. But at the same time, they really stress out the liver, because the liver has to process that. The liver is really the garbage dump. And it gets to the point where with some of these pharmaceutical drugs, you get people to the age of about 50 years old. The average person at 50 is on about 4 different meds. As you start to get older, that goes all the way up to 7 and 8 by the time a person's in their 70s. It's alarming, and it's hard to heal your body when you're completely overriding your nervous system pharmaceutically. And so one drug begets another drug, because one side effect produces another side effect, and then you're taking all these drugs. So we have to start eliminating some of these drugs that people are taking by rebalancing their bodies, bringing them back into homeostasis. And part of that is getting rid of all the other toxicity in their bodies. So plastics, we live in a plastic society. I mean, plastic bags and plastic wrappers, plastic bottles. So what's happening is those plastics are leaching into our bodies, and they're creating a number of hormonal changes. So we have to, whenever we can, start drinking out of things like a hydro flask or glass bottles. We have to make sure we're drinking out of, or having like BPA free drinkware. And it's so important, because we are consuming all this water today in plastic bottles. And a lot of that, again, is leaching into our bodies and then create a whole host of problems. Chlorine is another big one. If you don't have a water filtration system, that's something you definitely need to get. Certainly filter your water. They have, obviously shower filters. They have home house filters. And it takes a lot of the things like chlorine out of the water. But chlorine can really affect different organs and glands in your body, and we see it all the time. So when it comes to these stressors, we have to start learning how to sidestep what I would consider landmines. So it starts with taking the first step. We have to surround ourselves with positive things, positive people, have a positive mindset. And then that's the beginning. And then from there, we have to start eliminating some of these things that will kink our hoses or decrease electrical flow. Because if we don't do that, what's going to happen is our body starts to break down. We're going to get sick. Disease processes can manifest. But the bottom line is, if you want to live a life of high performance and vibrancy, then you have to start taking out the trash. So tomorrow we're going to obviously expand on what we talked about tonight. We've got a lot of, you can see we've got electromagnetic stress to cover. We have immune challenge, thermal stress, heavy metals, scars, piercings, structural stress, and nutrition stress. So as we move on, we'll cover all these topics. Hopefully you'll get a better understanding of why so many people are not looking their best, feeling their best, or performing their best. We need to change that. We need to help you look your very best, help you feel your very best, and help you perform your very best. So if there's any value you got from the video tonight, if you learned anything, please go ahead and like the video. If there's a friend or family member that you think can benefit from the information, please share the information. If there's any type of information you would like me to expand on it, please make a comment and I'll make sure that I will touch on any questions that may be addressed. So until I see you tomorrow, go out and make it a great day. You certainly deserve it, and be well.